Welcome back, Wolfpack Nation, and thanks for tuning in. This is episode 2 of our Raleigh Regional. In the first episode, we talked a little bit about the ACC as a whole, how they fared in the bracketology or the selection Monday, as it was for baseball, and then we started breaking out the Raleigh Regional with JMU and South Carolina, and we gave our predictions. So go see those, and then. If not, you'll probably figure out who we picked based on who we go for game 2s here as we start getting deeper into this regional. But again, Nicholas and Micah, thanks for joining us, and let's get right back into it. So we left off, like I said, with JMU in South Carolina. So let's start talking the Bryant and State game, 1 versus 4. Obviously, with State being the 1 host and Bryant being the 4. And Bryant was the champions, and I just totally lost what conference they were in. It was the American, what's that? American East, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I knew it was American something. But so for those that don't know where Bryant is, first off, they're the Bryant Bulldogs, and they are located up in Rhode Island. A lot of people probably don't know that about them. I actually had to look them up to see who they were when the brackets were announced. And this is a team that started off kind of slow and then got going and won their conference. And so they got the automatic bid of a 1-bid league with the American East. Micah, kind of just give me your thoughts on Bryant, what you know. You kind of alluded to them that they can tear the ball off, but they really can't pitch and defend very well. And we'll definitely get into those numbers, but kind of just give me your first thoughts on them.
So if you deep dive Bryant, something that I thought was super intriguing, Bryant won 1 game all season over a team that has a winning record. 1. And that was UMBC in the conference tournament. That's it. Well, actually, I lied. Technically, it's 3 wins, but they beat UMBC 3 different times. 2 times in the tournament, 1 time in the regular season. And UMBC is 2 games above 500.
And this is a team that they played a couple Power 5 teams. I think they got swept by Maryland, and I think they won 1 out of 3 against Pitt, if my memory serves me correctly.
And they have losses to UConn, who made the field as well. But I mean, I've watched a couple America East games in person this year.
I'm sorry.
No, right? The quality of baseball is.
Trust me, he loves this kind of stuff, Micah.
I do love the sicko kind of college baseball, but at the same time, it is what it is for a reason, right?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, that's the same conference Towson's in, correct?
Not anymore. Towson's CAA.
Okay, CAA. See, I told you all these teams.
So they're UMBC, Albany, Binghamton.
I know
UMass
Maine is in there.
UMass Lowell, not Rhode Island, NJIT, Maine.
We played NJIT a couple years ago. Actually, I think last year before. But so this is a team that just giving them their numbers here real quick, their raw numbers: 36-19, 20-7 in the conference, an RPI coming in strong at 115. Strength of schedule even better at 268. Nothing about that scares you, but counter that, like you said, Micah, they can hit, right? And as evidence, they have 81 home runs, which is a school record for them. I read when I was doing my research for this. But then again, what school didn't break their record for home runs this year? It seemed like every school was breaking their home runs. But their walk rate is pretty low at 11%, which is 164th. Their K rate is almost as bad not quite as bad as South Carolina, but they're 199th in the country. And none of these numbers just really scream at you. But when we talk about State here in a few minutes, those numbers aren't going to scream at you either.
No, but obviously the quality of competition will give it a nice little bump up in the statistical categories, in my eyes, at least.
For sure. So Nicholas, like myself and probably pretty much every NC State fan didn't know a whole lot about Bryant. Any first thoughts on any of the numbers? Anything stick out to you as you dive into the numbers?
Nothing really sticks out to me. If one thing that does is that they can hit, and if my prediction is correct, and thank you, Micah, for this. If we're throwing Dom can give it up. He's been known to give it up this year. He's had some great outings. He went toe to toe with Chase Burns in the series finale, did very well against Clemson. But if someone gets a hold of that fastball is long gone. He has been known to give up the home run ball this year. So they can hit. And if Dom's our guy, which most likely I think it will be, that's the only thing I would worry about. But, Dom doesn't really walk a whole lot. I mean, here and there he will, but nothing too much that sticks out to me. I think if he goes up against an inferior opponent like Bryant, I think he should be just fine.
Yeah, you mentioned the long ball. Gavin Noriega is their dude. He's had 18 bombs on the year. To your point, so I guess let's bounce over to NC State first. So you and Micah both think it's going to be Dom.
Yeah, I think.
I think it. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I think what we saw in the ACC tournament, we already saw Sam, we saw Logan go, we saw the bullpen go. And I mean, I was at the Duke game and we were just throwing Duden and Consiglio just so that, they weren't sitting for a week, right? Like that game was pretty much over after the fifth or sixth inning. Just throw them, get some pitches in. That way they're not sitting for 2 weeks. So I think Dom is probably the safe bet here. Save your bullpen for South Carolina or game two, whoever we play in game 2. Save Sam, save Logan. I think Dom is the way to go. Someone who's been resting a lot since the Wake Forest start.
Yeah. To your point about Dom and the home run ball, he's given up 17, which is as many as Sam has given up, ironically. So
in my opinion, I think I said this earlier on our live stream, but I think Dom's the only one who we don't see. Like I wouldn't be surprised to see if you keep Highfill and just try to keep a normal weekend rotation as much as possible, or if you go Whitaker or Marone even. But I don't know. It's an interesting. It's strategy.
And it goes back to what do you think of Bryant, right?
Right.
It's you've got plenty of arms. Marone showed you that he can start. He started a few games this year already. He's started 10 with the he's got the postseason experience through a nice game against Virginia Tech. Basically only giving up the one home run against them. And he showed you over the last half of the year that he can go, like he's a dude. And then do you stick to the same kind of rotation, if you will, where you get Sam comes out and then Duden has been following him, and then do you go Dom and then you go Cooper, and then if you go wait, do I have that right?
And Marone.
And then then you had Marone coming in there, and then I was trying to remember who went after Witt, but I think it was Consiglio. Yeah, so that's right. Yeah. So I don't know which way you go. If it's not Fritton, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Marone. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I guess who do you think goes deeper? Fritton or Marone? Like who would you? Because I think that's the decision you have to make from my outsider's perspective. I'm a big believer in game one. You want to save you want to use as little arms as possible. Agreed. And obviously, Marone's been kind of capped at 5 innings, where Dom can probably stretch a little bit further if he's got his stuff. So that's why I thought it would be Dom, just because you get that luxury of keeping your pen a little bit longer. And then I think Marone is a great option for a game 3 if you're in the 2-0 spot, hopefully in that situation, right? Because you get Sam to pitch well in game 2. And then you've got Marone who can go 5. And then this is when you turn the ball over to a pretty, as our guy Tucker says all the time, a blessing of a bullpen compared to the rest of the ACC with what NC State's got.
Yeah, and I haven't looked at enough about Bryant, but Dom and Marone are both left-handed pitchers. So what is Bryant trotting out there as far as are they lefty heavy or righty heavy? I don't know. I haven't gotten that far into it. So maybe that plays into the strategy of it, or you just go throw your best arms and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, and I can tell you that Bryant strikes out a lot swinging the bat, which I think benefits Dom because, again, when you've got a guy like that who's got a solid fastball, you want someone that can get those swings and misses. So, again, part of that matchup, too, like picking and choosing your battles, not a bad idea to go with the guy that can probably blow it by them. So I don't think they've seen someone that throws as hard as he does in the American East.
And to that point, Dom has 20 more strikeouts than Marone with only 8 more innings pitched, right? So that K rate is much better. Yeah. They love Dom's fastball for whatever reason. They call a lot of his fastballs. But all right, let's get back over to Brian a little bit. This is a team. I'm kind of just looking at their pitching. They got this Luke DeLongchamp. I guess that's probably their ace. It's got a really good ERA, but to your point earlier, the competition he's facing may not be the most elite. He's got a 2.48 ERA, a 5-2 record. He started 14 games. I don't know if he's necessarily their ace or if it's Austin Wainer, because he started one more game started, but he's got 15 more innings pitched. Anyone know anything about kind of who their ace is? Like, I'm just trying to figure out who they might potentially throw out.
If it's anything like a lot of these mid-major conferences and mid-major teams, there's no such thing as an ace. It's literally who did we put on Friday in the middle of April, and have they justified staying in that spot? Like, I mean, again, at East Tennessee State, our best guy is not our Friday guy. Our best guy is normally our Saturday or Sunday guy. And again, with the mid majors, their drop off is not that much different. So it's a matter of a flip of a coin of who is the best starter this weekend, because you really just don't know. So I think that's probably Brian's scenario. If anything, they're probably just going to stick to their normal rotation. So whoever pitched game one in most series is probably your game one guy here, and so on and so forth, unless they see some sort of matchup. But, I mean, I don't want to say that Bryant doesn't feel confident about this, but I don't see a weak link in the NC State lineup where I'm like, that's the matchup we want to go with.
For sure, right? And to that point, Bryant doesn't have the luxury not to throw their best guys, right? Like, there's no room for no room or no margin for error when it comes to that. Just kind of looking. They got a couple of dudes that Zach Zion's batting 377. That Gavin Noriega guy that we mentioned, he's batting 337. He looks like he's probably their best all around player. Don't really steal a lot of bases. Gavin Greger is their best stolen base guy at 15. Without really knowing a whole lot, it's kind of hard to I'm just throwing out some raw numbers here. Again, it's just a mid-major team that's going to probably be pesky. You want to probably hit them early and kind of deflate them a little bit. Give me your thoughts on how this game works out. Are we looking at a 10-run? By the way, do they do 10-run rules in the NCAA tournament like they do the ACC and the other tournaments, or do they?
They should. I don't know. The rules change every year. It feels like, but it wasn't last year.
Yeah, I thought I remember some 10-run rules last year, but I could be wrong. So, with that being said, just kind of give me your thoughts, Nicholas. How does this game?
Oh, I was just going to say, I think sometimes the coaches can agree before the game starts. Yeah, I think that's what happened with the Wake Forest Regional.
It's either it's in or it's out. There's no pick and choosing, Nick, in the tournament play.
Okay, got it.
It's either in or out.
So, with all that being said, how do you think this game looks?
I think it goes in State's favor pretty easily. I've been precautioned by our friend Monty, and he was reminding me that State has struggled in the midweeks. That has been this ball club's weakness. 0-2 to ECU, although a very good ECU. They're not like your typical
different arms. You're not going to see those same arms, though.
Yeah, you're not going to see those same arms. Yeah. But, I mean, 0-1 to Campbell, 0-1 to Greensboro, 0-2 to Wilmington. A tournament team, but, nonetheless. Yeah. So proceed with caution. Yeah. We know State has struggled in the midweeks.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but that's just different approach. Yeah, it's a different approach. You're not throwing, and no offense to any of our guys out there, you're not throwing the same guys that you were. State put all their eggs in their ACC weekends, and that shows. So I don't necessarily buy that argument. It is worth mentioning. I will say that much. So, so you got State winning, Michael. What do you think's happening here?
I mean, State's going to win this game. I'm not even really thinking about that. I think to answer your question on who Bryant's going to throw, I just texted a little friend. I forgot Luke DeLongchamp is a Boston College transfer. So he's told me that he thinks that's who's going to go against State, only Makes because sense. Even though he didn't pitch against State when he was there, he did obviously see, some of the scouting reports, stuff like that. Yep. Plus, again, he has been their best guy statistically as a starter this year. So he did tell me that that's who he thinks he's going with because he's a Northeast guy. So I was like, tell me what you know about Brian because I got nothing. And he wanted me to also just give a quick shout out to their closer. He said, I don't think you're going to see him this weekend, at least not in a safe situation. But if you do, I'm going to make sure I pull up his name correctly before I over here and botch it. It's Zach Nichols. So he's got a 5.79 ERA, but he does have 8 saves on the year and 21 appearances. So he did just want me to mention that if for some odd reason Bryant is in a safe situation, he does feel pretty good that he can shut the door down. So I guess let's not get to that situation. But
and to the point, I mean, we threw Derek Smith the other night, and it wasn't a safe situation. It was just to keep us in the ball game. So maybe you see something like that to keep you in the ball game.
For sure. And that's a good situation, I think. I don't think NC State's going to run rule them too. I think there's going to be not a strategy behind this, right? I mean, obviously NC State will want to score. They're not going to stop scoring just to save stuff for the weekend. But I do think there's a luxury to, being at home and whatnot. But I do think that NC State should be able to control this game. And hopefully there's not any high leverage situations to where you can get some of these younger arms, some opportunities that postseason experience because I mean, if it's anything like I know how NC State sporting events are in Raleigh, the atmosphere is going to be electric. So it's going to be different. It's going to be different. Like Nick mentioned the midweeks. I went to a midweek game this year at State against UNCW, and it was a good crowd, don't get me wrong, but there wasn't the energy that you're going to experience here. So, that's sometimes the flaw of the midweeks and why teams lose in the midweek. I know I talked to some Florida people. That was their excuse for losing in midweeks was the atmosphere is just not the same. When your team kind of falls behind, you don't get that same uplift from your fan base where obviously here if Bryant hits a solo home run in the first inning, I don't think it's going to be dead, right? The crowd's still going to be in it. They're still going to be electric and they're going to be able to get NC State to score 6 the next half inning.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Michael, I'm assuming you're good with State in this one.
Yeah. It's hard not to.
Yeah.
It's just a level of competition thing.
Yeah. All right, so I think we're all pretty much saying State advances, and then we got half and half, where it's a JMU State game and then a State. Apparently, they agree with me. Half JMU State and half South Carolina State. So let's kind of just jump forward, just for time's sake. How do we see a State South Carolina game playing out, and then we'll do a JMU State quick preview as well. So I guess we all can assume that Sam's probably pitching on Saturday. I think if he's not going on Friday.
Yeah,
that would be a safe assumption. I think.
Well, okay, let me do this. What percentage do you put it at Sam not pitching on Friday? Do you think it's 50-50? Do you think it's a little higher than that?
I think it's higher than that.
I think it's higher.
But I'll be the first one to admit I don't know the Elliott event strategy for postseason baseball. So like I said, with UVA, Brian O'Connor's approach is we stick to our guns. We don't care. You saw it even in ACC tournament play.
Yep, you did.
They went with their ace in the game that was meaningless. Right?
Yep.
So I don't know Avent's approach to that, so I'll leave that to you all. But I still think that in the common sense side of college baseball, you save your best when you know you're going to face the best competition.
Yeah. I think so. For me, State South Carolina, that's a revenge game from last year. Obviously, Matt Willitson threw in that game, so he won't be pitching due to his injuries. Now, it's a lineup that is pretty similar. South Carolina's got a lot of guys that played on last year's team still, in key situations and key positions. Just kind of give me your thoughts on how you would see that matchup play out.
Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout Eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need. Offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out.
It's going to be a little tough for Sam if he's going. But I trust him. I trust an experienced guy. South Carolina's been inconsistent. Sam doesn't allow that many walks. I feel pretty good about him. Again, South Carolina has a very high whiff rate. They strike out a lot. I think if Sam can just locate his pitches, don't be afraid to give up, some hits. Just don't give up any walks because, again, as you mentioned, Greg, they are very good at plate discipline when it comes to the walks. So I think if Sam can just stay disciplined and locate, I think he should be just fine.
Yeah, we mentioned, it's either going to probably be Eli Jones or Dylan Eskew. Both have 14 starts on the season. Both have thrown pretty close to the same amount of innings. Jones has a 5.32 ERA and Eskew has a 4.87. Teams are batting better against Jones at 3.15 as they're batting 2.42 against Eskew. So that's probably one of those two guys are probably your projected starters. Kind of give me your thoughts, Micah, real quick on how you would see this matchup playing out.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, Sam pitching against South Carolina, if obviously we're assuming that scenario, is a perfect scenario because of South Carolina's strikeout rate. I mean, Sam's averaging a strikeout an inning. I mean, he gets guys to strike out. And you look at his numbers even deep diving more, like Virginia guy here. We strike out a lot. Look at his numbers against teams that strike out a lot. You got Notre Dame, he struck out 10. He struck out, I think, 8 against Boston College. He struck out Virginia 6 or 7 times. Like when he faces these teams that like to strike out, he gets the job done. I think that plays very, very well. The Doak is not as hitter friendly as Founders Park. That's another thing, too, that I think plays well because South Carolina has a lot of home runs that, they're home runs at 40% of college baseball ballparks. I don't know if they're going to get out, though, at Doak. So
Doak has that stream, though, so well, depending on the weather. I mean, Doak can play to the hitter, especially lefties. Lefties hit pretty well at Doak. Sam's biggest problem is his walks. If he can cut down on the walks, keep the traffic, at a minimum. You saw where he gave up some home runs against Carolina and still did his thing. Same with Dom. We mentioned both of them have given up 17 home runs. You can live with the solo home runs. It's when you get traffic on the bases, it gets ugly real quick, as like the Duke game where he gave up the grand slam. So if you can keep the damage to a minimum, I think you set yourself up really well for Sam specifically. Michael, what do you think there?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's, I mean, now it's like I've kind of flipped on this. I kind of like the idea of throwing Dom Friday and saving Sam for Saturday. But yeah, South Carolina's gonna be tough. I think if it does end up being, if State and South Carolina both advance, I think it ends up being two out of 3. I don't think it's NC State just goes 3-0 and wins the regional. I think it at least goes 2 out of 3 with South Carolina. Either way, it's tough. I mean, obviously I lean State, but I wouldn't be surprised either way.
Yeah, Nicholas, what do you? I think do we already come to you on this one? I think did you give a predict? Actually, let's give predictions so we can keep this moving on. Nicholas, what do you think in a State South Carolina matchup?
I feel really good about State's matchup with South Carolina. I think our bats are more consistent than South Carolina. If AMAC can get into a clutch situation, which sometimes he's missed out on, but other times he has not. It's kind of hit or miss with guys on the base paths for AMAC. But Pennington, you can rely on to be on base at the very least. And we got guys that are getting hot at the right time. Butterworth, the Nixon brothers, even Kozart, who was struggling out the gate, has come alive and well. I mean, he has been tearing the cover off the ball. So I think the pitching is okay compared to South Carolina. It's going to be interesting, but if I had to guess where the advantage was for us, it would be the lineups. I think our lineup is a lot better right now.
Yeah, top to bottom,
So
I would
I
agree
go
with that. Is it safe to say? Yeah, I got you. I would go State as well. I just like our bats too much. If you take the Duke approach on us, I think we're in trouble. If you just start throwing out guys randomly at you and you can't get into a rhythm with one of these pitchers, I think it becomes a little bit more difficult for State. When you look at State, they are so good the second and third times through the lineup on a pitcher. They're able to time them up, and those numbers definitely show that. I think it's safe to say if JMU were to beat South Carolina, we would all like State in that second matchup against JMU. Would that be safe? JMU's pitching probably doesn't go as deep. They don't pitch great, and Bryant definitely doesn't pitch great. And then I think we'll just fast forward a little bit. Give me your predictions as far as who makes it out of this region and why. Go ahead, Micah. You can go first.
I think NC State goes undefeated in this region.
Wow.
I said it earlier. I really don't think this region's that difficult. I'm very high on this NC State team. Maybe it's my bias as a Virginia guy trying not to accept that we lost that series in Charlottesville to you all. But it was
a good series though.
What I've seen from this team, I went and saw them in the midweek against UNCW at the end of April, and the team that I saw then to the team I've even seen now is light years better. They've continued, like Nick mentioned it. Guys are getting hot at the right time. The pitching is, there's still some shaky moments, right? But for the most part, again, this is one of the best, if not the best bullpen in the conference. We're talking about a team that it has it. And again, this is a credit to NC State fans. There's that itch to host a regional again. 2021 went the wrong. Yeah. And 2021 obviously was a robbery with what happened in Omaha. So there's just I felt it when I was there on that midweek, like the feeling of, can we get that because at the time, right, in late April, you weren't sure you were hosting. You were on that 25, 26 RPI. I'm the first one to admit, I told Tucker, he's like, yeah, I think we have a chance. I'm like, you have no shot unless you go in and win these series. And then you did. You split with Florida State. You won the series with Virginia. You did what you needed to do. And I think there's this drive behind this team that, again, I don't think South Carolina is all that special. I think, personally, guys, I think JMU is a more of a difficult matchup for the Pack than South Carolina because of their death by 1,000 paper cuts and just the way that NC State sometimes gets in their own way, right? And that's what JMU is going to want to make you do is if, again, for example, if it's Sam, if he walks a couple of guys for JMU, they're going to steal bases. They're going to make you they're going to make Kozart try to pick somebody off on a back.
Kozart's pretty good though with that.
So, but I do think NC State's the better team here.
Yeah. Nicholas, give me your thoughts. Who wins this region and why?
Yeah, I got State coming out of this. I feel really good about them. I think they were everything was clicking at the right time. I think they got the bad game out of the way against Duke. I think it was a perfect time to get that out of the way because you didn't want it to happen in the regionals against a South Carolina or a JMU or whoever we ended up with, right? Yeah. So I think it was best to get that out of the way. That was Sam's worst performance of the year. Was against Duke this year. So I'm glad that was kind of out of the way as well. This team is stacked in the lineup. I feel really good about our bats. I feel really good about our bullpen. I think the second best team in this regional is South Carolina, and the lineup is shaky. The pitching is shaky. I feel good with a consistent NC State team right now, so I got them coming out of this.
And does it end Sunday, or do we have to go to Monday to get there?
I think it's going to end Sunday. I'm with Micah on this. I think it's going to go 3-0.
Okay.
All
right. All right, Michael, what do you got?
Yeah, I'll go State coming out, but I'll go, it goes to Monday. So, State's going to win 2 out of 3 versus South Carolina.
Yeah.
I don't know. We've shown enough inconsistency, which I don't even know if it's inconsistent, but a lot of our series wins, we got big series wins, but a lot of them were 2-1, right? Clemson, Duke, UNC, those are all 2-1.
Yeah, Wake Forest really being the exception in the last half of the season.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
I'll go State.
Yeah, I will also go State, and I also think it'll be Monday, though I don't want it to be Monday because that's an extra night of hotels that I have to have. So I would prefer it to end on Sunday. But I think if you have to play a Monday game, it definitely favors the Pack with just the deep bullpen.
Yeah,
again, as long as we manage it properly. I mean, that kind of relies on the whole thing is, are we going to manage our arms right? And that's the one factor that scares me. But I do definitely think it's going to be the Pack advancing on a Monday, Game 7. All right, before we wrap up, give me an X factor, Nicholas, for NC State. Like one guy that if this dude goes off, that you feel real confident that the Pack will advance, and that could be both either a hitter or a pitcher.
If Sam Highfill goes 7+ innings again in Game 2, I feel really good. And I think that's going to be the X factor and carry the momentum into Game 3.
Okay, I like it. Micah, what about you?
I'm going Butterworth here. I think that, in a regional play, you need that back half of your lineup to get it done. And, between that or the Nixon brothers, right? One of those three needs to be kind of that guy that carries it. We've seen it when these teams have gone to Omaha, from the ACC specifically. It's that back half of the lineup. There's that guy, that just gets it done. That's, able to turn the lineup back over to the top half of the lineup, or again, driving the runs if those first couple guys get on. So I'm going to lean Butterworth. I really enjoyed watching him last year at Western Carolina, not so much when he played ETSU, but, I know he's capable of that type of ability, and we've seen it, throughout the year here at State. Yep. So I think that if he has the weekend that I think he can, he's someone that I don't think South Carolina or James Madison necessarily have. A guy that is, able to do the damage he can in that 5 or 6 hole spot, depending on where they decide to put him.
Yeah, to that point, the 5 through 9, 6 through 9 have been really good over the last month or so. Kind of like you said, turning over that table and setting it for the big boppers on the top half of the lineup. Michael, go ahead and give me your X guy, and then I'll give mine, and then we'll wrap this thing.
Yeah, so I'll go Dom Fritton. I know we were talking about him maybe going Friday, but I think he'd probably still go Saturday. So if he has a good outing Saturday and State can take that first winner's bracket game, I think that's just such a huge advantage for the rest of the weekend. Yeah,
to Micah's point earlier, that second game is the most important and vital one. I said it when he broke out against Norfolk State a few weeks ago. I think it was May 7th, and I'm sticking by it. Alex Sosa is my dude. He has just been tearing it up. He hit another home run in the ACC tournament, just missed one more in that Duke game. And so kind of to what the point Micah was making with Butterworth, I think he's the guy that kind of bridges the top half and the bottom half of the lineup. And it just seems like he's been coming up to the plate with dudes on, and he's been hitting, he hit the grand slam a couple weeks ago against Wake. And then, I think he had a 2 or 3 run shot in the Virginia Tech game. And so that's my guy. I think he's just going to continue to do his thing and just impress. I mean, he's coming on at the right time with having dealt with all the early season stuff that he dealt with. So I think that will be the guy for me. All right. So any closing thoughts before we wrap this thing? Anything we might have missed? Anything that you want to throw out there to say, you know what, this is a stat that might jump off. The other thing we didn't really talk about is Brian has a lot of upperclassmen arms. They like their top like 8 or 9 pitchers are all like juniors or seniors and grad guys. So I don't think the moment will necessarily be too big for them. So that's something to keep, but they struggle with their pitching. And so I don't really think it's going to be that big of a deal, but it is something to at least keep an eye on. But anything else from the panel before we close?
I don't know if this question is appropriate, but I am just curious out of selfish reasons because I will be attending the Athens Regional. Who do you want?
Justin Cook made it well known.
Who do you want to see NC State get if they were to advance? Do you have a like? Is there someone you're cheering for in the Athens region?
Yeah, anybody but Georgia, because I selfishly would love to host a super regional.
Yeah, pretty much. No, I would agree. Yeah, anybody but Georgia, so we can host Georgia.
Would you want UNC Wilmington to come back?
Do we want to see Georgia Tech though, guys? Like, do we really want to see Georgia Tech?
That's the thing.
So
though.
with that Georgia Tech series, without getting this thing off the rails, I mean, Whitaker didn't pitch. Butterworth was injured in that series a little bit. I just don't think it was. It was early season ACC play. We didn't have it figured out like we do now. And so I think if you gave me that series now, I wouldn't bat an eyelash at it.
Yeah.
I just figured with the results of the 2 and the 3 seeds with UNC Wilmington and Georgia Tech, I was like, I'm curious what NC State fans are thinking because obviously if it's Georgia, you have to go on the road.
Yeah, so. I don't think that's as scary. I mean, look, give me shades of 2021 where we go down to an SEC host for a super regional, go take 2 out of 3 and make it to Omaha. Yeah. So I'm okay with it. It is what it is. If we had maybe won the ACC, you might be looking at a reverse situation. I was a little surprised that Georgia's seeding. I thought they would be a little bit lower. But they can hit. Well, they at least have one hitter. I don't know. I didn't watch enough of their ball, but I know they were hot for a while, and then they got a little cold towards the end there. So. Look, like you said earlier, if you're going to go beat the best, or if you want to go be the best, you got to go beat the best. So let the chips fall where they may, and I'm all for an Athens regional. I already have a room booked, so just in case I need it.
Nice.
Love it.
So, all right. Hey, guys, Micah and Nicholas, we definitely appreciate you jumping on with us. Oh, go. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. I was just going to say this. One more thing that doesn't show up on the page for State is that I have not seen a State team this gritty before. Like, you better step on their throats, and you better squash them because State. This is one of the grittiest State teams I've seen since I've been paying attention since undergrad. They do not give up. These series wins in the ACC have been grit. They don't give up. Mm-hmm. They're right there with you. So that's how they've been able to win these games. Is they haven't given up.
Yeah, 7 walk-offs to that point, right? And they use all 27 outs to their advantage, and that's not a question. So, really good point to close us out there, Nicholas. So, all right, Wolfpack Nation. Well, it gets started on Friday. We got Bryan at 7:00, and then the early game, like we said, is JMU versus South Carolina. So, look, if you haven't got your tickets, there's not a lot left. I think there's pretty much only standing room only. So the Doak will be packed out, literally. We want to see all that red. If you come out this weekend, be loud. Let's make it most uncomfortable for these opponents. We need that 10th man, if you will. And let's get these guys to a super regional, whether that be here in Raleigh or on the road down to Athens. So we'll find out probably by this time Monday night where we're at if we're still in it. So Wolfpack Nation, thanks again as always for tuning in. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, turn on your bell notifications, make sure you're following us on Twitter, X. I'm a boomer, my apologies. Instagram, TikTok. Apparently, I'm too old for TikTok, but apparently we have one of those. So again, make sure you follow us, and we're almost at 20,000 people on X. So let's get to 20,000. Look, they say it's the year of the dragon, but I think it's the year of the wolf. But with that being said, we'll see you on the flip side, and always go Pack.